You have moved the body?
I did.
You must never move the body.
Why not?
Because.
Okay. Oh, film juice it is. With Jon and Mike, I'm Mike and Jon, and I'm Mike and Jon, and we have a special guest, Christina.
Hello, I'm Christina.
And we are going to discuss Sleepy Hollow. To open the show, I was thinking about the movie The Patriot, and who was the real Patriot? Was it Mel Gibson, or was it Jason Isaacs?
And Jason Isaac, I'm guessing was from.
He's the
Britain.
evil British man.
The British dude. Okay.
Oh, that's the bad guy?
Yeah, because he was way more like he was way more into it than Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson was all reluctant.
He was a reluctant hero, and the bad officer, the English officer, he wanted to lay down roots in the United States. He's like, tell me about Ohio. Like,
yeah. Tell me about Ohio. It smells weird.
Yeah. He told that to what was that English? The General
Cornwallis?
Cornwallis, yeah.
Oh, I loved when Cornwallis choose him out in that movie.
Another question to follow your question. Was it the American Revolution or was it the English Revolution?
It was the American Revolution.
But then the English had to revolt against the insurgent
because
Americans.
it was the newly formed self-claimed Americans who were revolting against the British monarchy and ruling. So I would say American.
Yeah, there was one there was one question. I think that was the question one of my history teachers ended up asking us. I think it was that, or was it the English Civil War or something like that?
Hey, that's kind of a good point.
An English Civil War, kind of, I guess.
Yeah,
kind
because
of like that, right? Maybe that's what it was.
We were English.
It's just that it wasn't on the same continent where our Civil War was here and this one was across an ocean. So, yeah. But yeah.
Like the wars we fight now.
Exactly. Or they're over the internet, the interwebs.
Oh, yeah. Cyber
war.
So, yeah.
But getting back to Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow from 1999, starring Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, and some old English actors whose names I can't quite remember. And also there's a registered sex offender in there.
Miranda Richardson is in it too. She's wonderful.
Miranda Richardson is in it.
She did really well. Casper Van Dien.
Casper
Van
Dien.
Oh yeah,
the action man who never was. He had the jaw and everything.
He's one of those actors where I wanted to see like him in more movies, but in like really good movies.
He married a princess or something, and he had a reality show for a little while.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I bet he's a really nice guy.
He married some royalty or something, and they had like a little reality series, and I guess it didn't go anywhere, but yeah, that's what happened to him. So
I don't care about that bitch. I hope they get divorced.
But I am a huge Johnny Depp fan and even bigger Tim Burton fan. And there's nobody better to do this movie than Tim Burton, because he totally gets the whole goth he does
Yeah.
the everything is gray and gloomy.
There's no sun.
His characters are wide-eyed and just very like cartoonish.
There's something I
know.
was about to say that there's something kind of like over the top about all of them. Even the way Christina Ricci speaks just seems kind of like, and then Brahms, Casper Van Dien, he's all like, I'm a big man. I'm gonna fight the headless horseman. And then Johnny Depp, of course. How many times did people faint in this movie too? Like 6 times?
It was a good.
A whole bunch. It was
Yeah,
mostly Johnny
it was
Depp's
a lot.
character, Ichabod
It's
Crane.
mostly
who was
Johnny Depp
passing
mostly. He even passed out after he passed out. I don't know how he managed that.
This was.
But-
Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Yeah, there was. I noticed a lot of. I know there was a lot of good, like, interesting things about this movie visually too, as far as like I guess the aesthetic and all that. And I couldn't quite I knew there was something recognizable about it, and I was watching one of the featurettes for the movie, and Tim Burton was saying that he actually was inspired a lot by 40, like these detective and movies from the 40s.
Oh, really?
Oh, like a
Yeah.
noir type.
Well, like film noir kind of.
Kind of like that. And actually, I can't remember the actual genre too. I'm trying to. It's, but it was in that. Noir was part of it, and he wanted. Oh, and the horror movies from that time. That's what it was.
Oh, the
like
old
the
ones.
Frankenstein and the Dracula and the
Yes.
Nosferatu.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
And they went all out on this movie where they, just like those movies, they were in a big building, and the whole movie was shot in this building.
Oh, I wouldn't have
Oh,
thought that.
wow.
And so they created the whole forest within the building, and the town and everything it was a really big.
It's all like CGI or.
Yeah, it's all practical.
It's all practical. Yeah, it was all practical. I think there's a little bit of that CGI and visual effects and stuff, but very, very little.
Oh yeah, with the horseman.
Yeah, when he throws
Unless they found
his
a
pumpkin.
headless guy.
Yeah,
It was really
there's
beautiful. I love the whole gloom. I mean, it's the perfect Halloween movie. It's just dark and gloomy, but it's also humorous.
Yeah,
The superstition, the witchcraft, everything. It's just all in there.
there was all that fog and the woods and that creepiness. That reminded me of Evil Dead, from Sam Raimi.
The original or the
I
remake?
think the
The original first one, yeah. When they drive out into that cabin, and then the scenes outside and just stuff like that. It kind of reminded me of that. And I was telling Mike, I almost feel like there are good things about this movie, but I almost feel like I would have liked to have seen Sam Raimi do this movie.
Really?
And, yeah, I think it would have.
He would have done an excellent job, no doubt. I this is like right up Tim Burton's alley. Like, he does these kinds of movies. Like the one that I absolutely think that Tim Burton should not have done was Planet of the Apes. I thought he did a terrible job in that one.
That was a horrible movie, but the makeup
It was horrible. That should have gone to another director. It wasn't right for Tim Burton.
I think it wasn't right for Mark Wahlberg or Tim Burton.
No.
Everyone else was
No.
fine. I liked all the monkey makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty cool looking. But that was just
Even Helena Bonham Carter was in that one, and
yeah.
I mean, everybody was
she was a sexy.
excellent.
She was one sexy monkey.
But Tim Burton was the movie just didn't work. But for
Mm.
Sleepy Hollow, it was perfect. It's exactly his genre. It's like Corpse Bride or something. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah. The only
that-
movie I can think of after Planet of the Apes, because I think Planet of the Apes was right after this. Big Fish.
Oh,
Oh, he did
yeah.
that?
Yeah, he did Big Fish.
Oh, okay.
That one made me
I-
cry.
I have still yet
That
to
was a
like
good one.
see. I haven't seen that movie all the way through. I think I started it, but I never sat through it for some reason. For one reason or another, I just never did. But I've been looking to actually sit down and watch that movie because I've heard so many good things about it.
It's good.
It is good.
Yeah, I gotta do that soon.
But yeah, so Johnny Depp is recruited to go to Sleepy Hollow.
Yes.
And really they just want
He's a
him-
constable in New York.
He's a constable
Oh,
in New
and
York.
the absolutely wonderful
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee is in this movie, which often comes out in Tim Burton movies.
Yeah, and Tim Burton takes all of his cast from Hammer films.
Oh,
From-
yeah. And so Ichabod Crane is very moral and upstanding, and he is
Scientific.
determined. He's all about scientific research. Like he wants to do experiments, and he doesn't believe in superstition. And so the brilliant Christopher Lee, who plays a judge, I believe.
Yeah, he's the magistrate, whatever.
The magistrate judge.
Yeah.
He says, "All right, then I've got a case for you," and he sends him upstate New York to a small Dutch community called Sleepy Hollow, and that's where the story begins, which is a very interesting story how it unfolds.
Yeah.
He comes to the town during the night of this huge party being held by the richest
Oh, the elite.
resident in the community, and meets the pretty young daughter.
Yeah, and the name of the family comes up several times throughout the movie. What was the name of the family?
The Van Tassels, the Van Garretts, and the Van Tassels
Yes. The Van Tassel.
Van Tassel is
was the original,
the main guy.
the main guy who the whole mystery starts about.
Yeah.
It was Baltus Van Tassel,
Okay.
and then his relative, the Van Garretts, are the ones now that are richest family in town, because, as you know, Baltus Van Tassel is now the richest man in town, because
The Van Garrett signed
Van
over.
Garrett,
Or yes,
he was
Van
killed,
Garrett.
remember, in
He
the
was killed.
beginning.
That's what. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was the first guy. Okay.
Yes.
And that was after he signed his will over to the wife.
So we see this whole mystery transpiring, where Van Garrett signs a document. He's holding hands with what you could tell is a woman, and they slap something in this briefcase, and he's rushing away through the woods, and he seems very eager and anxious, and he's killed mysteriously. And that puts everything into motion.
Yeah. And what is it? Ichabod Crane arrives. He goes and tries to explain to them, don't they like... Okay, so he goes to the party and they call him into a secret meeting.
Yes.
The five guys, the magistrate, the notary,
But the biggest mystery and the whole point of why he was called there was because the victims are being decapitated, but no one can locate the heads.
right.
They're missing. And so who's killing people, and why are they taking the heads? So he arrives the in Sleepy Hollow the night of this big party that Baltus Van Tassel is throwing. And yes, he gets called into a private meeting with some other gentlemen there at the party.
Yeah. poor Michael Goff doesn't stand up once in the entire movie. he stands up from one chair to go to another chair. I think that's the most action he has. I think he died shortly after this. I may be wrong, but he at least didn't do any more movies. This seems like a favor.
You know, there was we forgot to mention. I think we forgot to mention him because I don't know why he isn't listed even all that much, but he is a big character, which is the actual Horseman, Headless Horseman, Christopher Walken.
Yeah. Christopher Walken / there's a Star Wars connection in this movie. In the same year that The Phantom Menace was released, in which they both appear together. No one's gonna know. It's Ray Park and Ian McDermott.
Oh wow!
Ian McDermott
Okay.
played the Emperor. Ray Park does the Headless Horseman action stuff. Ray Park was Darth Maul.
Oh,
Yes, that's right. Okay, that's neat.
Fun fact.
fun little fact there.
Yeah, and Christopher Walken, he
Again, another brilliant choice.
yeah,
for the
right.
movie.
he was known to be like a guy who was in scary movies, right? At kind of.
Yeah, he
Well,
was
he
doing
did. He did the Stephen King movie. What was that called? Oh my God.
I know
Because
he
he's
did
always
the-
been like creepy, like in a creepy role.
Yeah, he can't not be. There's like The Prophecy.
There we go. That's the
Oh,
one
The
I was
Prophecy. He
thinking
did The
about.
Prophecy, where he played the Archangel Gabriel.
That's right.
But what is the one with the Stephen King? Where he goes and he falls into a coma after a car accident, and he comes back and he has
Dead Zone.
he has the
The
dead
Dead
zone.
No.
But he's like the perfect villain in this. So he is a Hessian mercenary. And because you have to remember, this is just after the American Revolution. It's just before the turn of the century. I believe it's like 1790, 1799, something like that.
Mhm.
So
Wait, so the Americans hired him?
no, the English hired Hessian mercenaries to keep the Americans under control,
The ones that
or
were
to
in...
attempt to.
Oh, okay. I got it.
And
So he happened to be one of them that was here, and he was particularly brutal. He was known for being really cruel and brutal.
And what exactly is a Hessian?
German.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's basically just means German.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. And
So
that
like
actually,
the English employed some German not soldiers, but Michael, what do you call them when you're like a mercenary?
Mercenary.
So they were kind of like mercenaries that were for hire, and the English
Okay.
said, all right, go over there and see if you can settle these Americans down. So he was here and he was really good at it. He was good at terrorizing people, and but he ended up getting cornered, and
Yeah.
he was beheaded and buried, which they believe that like cursed ground now.
They killed his horse.
He killed his black steed, Daredevil,
Oh.
which he actually showed a lot of kindness to.
Yeah, he did.
He loved Daredevil. So,
But I thought it was creepy.
he encountered two little girls in the woods.
That's
which
right.
we come back
That's
to
important.
that later. Yeah. they kind of, one of them in particular kind of gave him away.
Yeah. And then the other one runs away to do whatever she does later.
And they play an important part later
They
in
do.
the movie.
Christopher Walken's teeth freaked me out, especially as a kid.
Yeah. How do you file your teeth?
Right. Like they were like shark teeth.
They were like shark teeth. But yeah, I thought
I
it
don't know,
was
because
creepy
the
how
lead singer.
Huh?
in what?
What was that?
Oh,
Christine?
His teeth filed down or something to be sharp and scary.
Oh, you muted for like 4 seconds. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, okay.
Now we can.
Sorry.
Yeah. But were you saying the lead singer of who?
Of Twisted Sister, he had his teeth filed down or something. So apparently it can be done. I don't know.
Very
And another
comfortable.
point I want to make is that Danny Elfman music.
Hey, Christina, you got muted again.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Now we can.
Oh, and my cheek keeps hitting something. I don't know. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you said you wanted to mention something now?
Oh, about the score that Danny Elfman did the score, and the score is really, excellent at its highs and its lows, and
Yeah, it doesn't feel too Danny Elfman-ish.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But he does like most of the scores in Hollywood, and he often works with Tim Burton too. So
Yeah. I like when he ventures outside of the Tim Burton zone and makes like something unique and different. Because I mean, come on. Like it gets kind of old.
oh yeah. So he was in what, Oingo Boingo?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
So now that we've kind of become familiar with who all the main characters are, that we learn about Ichabod Crane and that he has a backstory and a reason why he's so adamant about not believing in superstition.
Oh, yes,
And-
that's right.
And that will come into the movie as flashbacks regarding his childhood and how he was raised.
Yeah, it was kind of strange seeing his mom, the flashbacks with his mom and Ichabod as a kid, and she was like dancing around him and
Floating in
whispering
the
in his
air.
ear, and like because she's very like she has red on, and I believe it's a red dress, and she looks very beautiful and graceful, but like there's this
He
creepiness.
describes her as like a child of nature or something. She's
Yeah.
in other words, she's more like ethereal and more
Kind of
like a
pure.
what they would refer to as like a witch. She
Yeah,
and
was
she
a
happened
witch,
to be
yeah.
married to a very a man with like extreme religious fervor, and
his
tried.
dad is just like, "Oh, you're happy? You're a witch."
So that was her husband.
You're
then.
drawing with a stick.
That was the dad. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you draw a little spirograph?
He seemed
Get over here. You're a witch.
He seemed like too old to be her husband, and it seemed real random to me.
Well, because he wore the powder wig. I don't think he's actually that old.
It is the late 1700s.
And it's not unusual.
very likely that she was a very young woman or girl married to an older man.
True. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was odd to me.
She was a free spirit. She was, ethereal and, probably believed potions and healing things. And he was a very devout religious person who, wanted to like stamp that out of her by means of torture if necessary.
That's
so
right.
that left a real impact on Ichabod as a child. I think he completely rejected religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because even like, remember the scene in the meeting where the Reverend comes up to him and he's like, You bring books of science and whatever, boy. This is the only book you'll need. And he throws the Bible out on the table.
Hmm.
And Ichabod's like, all right, gentlemen, well, thank you. And he puts his own book on top of it,
Yeah, on
as if
top
to
of the
say,
Bible.
like, nah, thank you.
Like he's still rejecting it,
He's
and putting
still
his.
Yeah.
rejecting
Mhm.
not only religion,
And
but the supernatural in general.
right,
Yes.
right. And he, yeah, like that's cool. I thought that was an interesting part of him, and there's a lot going on in the movie, in some ways, uh, and it's kind of interesting how, like Tim Burton, like his like flavor of directing definitely comes out in the whole, because you see this in every movie where he takes the macabre, what's evil or what's looked at as evil, and he tries to show that it's not all as what it seems,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and he definitely does that in this movie. And I'm so used to seeing Johnny Depp like in Edward Scissorhands, and there's other movies too with Tim Burton and him, and
There's a beautiful lesson in Edward Scissorhands where I saw an interview with Tim Burton where he said it's meant to represent like a teenager, and how you feel like you're ugly and you can't touch anything. Like that's why he has these hands, these scissors, because it's he's supposed to not be
Yeah.
able to reach out and touch any, like teenagers, when we
Like
feel lost and
like an awkward kid with his hands
like
in
an
his
awkward
pocket.
kid. Yeah. And so there's always like these morals behind like Tim Burton, like you said, is with this one it's magical, and you have a little bit of witchcraft, and you um have this staunch religion, and then you also have the law, and he's trying to come to terms with all of those things,
Yeah.
because in truth, in this, with this particular story, all of them happen to be true.
Yeah, all of it's
right,
true in
there,
some
there
way.
there is some
yeah,
witchcraft, there is some superstition, there is some magical
Man-made
things going,
conspiracy.
man-made conspiracy going on, and it all
hmm
happens to be true, and he has to reconcile all of those into his beliefs, or when he comes to find out what's going on through his investigation.
the as I was watching this movie, there was like I was following it, and it's a very like I think it's pretty easy overall movie to follow. Um, but a part of me couldn't help but think like this isn't Sleepy Hollow. Part of me was kind of thinking about that, like because okay, so Ichabod is not like a tall and dankly man like he is in the story.
Right, he's supposed to have a crooked nose and tall and
Long
lanky and
hands, yeah, exactly, and he has a horse. He's a teacher as well,
mhm.
um, and in the story, he's also it becomes where he's focused on getting the girl and Katrina, right? Katrina Van Tassel.
Yes. Mhm.
And so in this one, you barely, there's a little relationship throughout with her.
Yeah.
But she's very attracted to him. And
She
Yeah,
is
that was
though.
her.
Yeah.
That was her fault.
The
Oh yeah,
Pickety
she
Witch.
kissed
The
him.
Pickety Witch.
Oh, who's got to kiss for the
The
wickety
Pickety Witch.
Oh yeah.
I'll do it. No, I'll do it. Started fight.
And
Yeah.
Brom gets pretty jealous.
Yeah, why is he letting her do it if he's so jealous?
Brom, what was his name?
Brom,
Brom
yeah.
Van Blunt? Or
Brom.
what?
Yes, that's what it is.
Brom von Brom.
Brom Van Blunt.
Van
Van
Braun?
Brunt. Then Brom
Brunt.
Van Brunt. Yeah. and in the story, Washington Irving's story,
Mhm.
Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Brom, he doesn't come up as much, I feel like, as in the movie as in the story, because there's question in the actual story if he killed Ichabod. And the conspiracy is actually more so around Ichabod's death in the actual story than it is around all these families
solving.
Yeah,
like inverted. Yeah. Well, I heard that they in the movie they cut Brahm's screen time in half.
Yeah, I wish I would have seen him a little bit more.
Oh, did they really? So he had more scenes?
No, that was a pun because they cut him in half.
Oh.
That
was good, Michael.
Yeah.
And you know what's great about the movie?
What's that?
No death happens off screen. You see every beheading.
Oh, yes. I like that, actually.
Except for the kid. The little kid.
Oh, right.
At the end, you just see him stuffing his head in the bag.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, he didn't.
For his life. But they did it,
that was
though.
cringy.
They did it. That was pretty
They still
cool.
did it.
He picks him up by the head. And then,
I didn't think he was going to do it.
And then you hear the poor kid screaming, and then you see the headless horseman stuffing something into a bag. And you're like, oh! So they went for it. I did like that.
The heads, they were actually made. They're like sculpted and put on like these animatronic machines where when the sword went by the head, it would spin on the machine.
Yeah, that was great.
And that was so cool. Like, yeah, they did a great job with it. It looked real.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. It was really good. Very convincing. So Ichabod is now it's understood that he is going to be staying with the Van Garretts, and he's going to start conducting his investigation. And sometime during that time period, the young boy that is
the little,
I think
Mazbeth.
His father is stationed out in a blind, so he can watch out for the village when something very mysterious comes out of the woods and snuffs out their torches, and the next thing you know, he's running for his life. Yeah. And he gets, like Johnny mentioned, he gets beheaded, and his head starts spinning around. Yeah. And the head is like scooped up, and then the townsmen find the body in the woods, and they send for Ichabod, who rides out there. And even Ichabod at this point, he can't explain. He can tell that the body has been moved, and he acknowledges that. He's like, "You moved the body," and they're like, "Yes." He goes, "You must never move the body." Go, why not? He goes, because it's like he doesn't even know why yet, but he understands that you need to leave a crime scene alone. But he doesn't quite, you know what I mean? Like, this is the beginning of like
forensic.
You know, yeah, because before, for example, like in the real life Jack the Ripper victims, they thought it was really indecent to take lots of photographs of the crime scene, because they were like, well, this is indecent. This poor woman is dead. But now, obviously, we know you need to take really thorough notes and crime scene photos, regardless of how gruesome a crime is, right? So back then, when they found Mazbeth lying there, they thought it was best to straighten him out, cross his arms, and even Ichabod could recognize you disturbed the crime scene. Now I can't figure out exactly what happened, but he's trying. So he starts noticing these the footsteps or the horse strides. So he's trying to put it together, but again, they've disturbed the crime scene.
Yeah. But you know what's weird is they move the body, but the way that he described it seemed completely plausible, because he said, like, the horseman stood here, turned around, and came back to claim the head. And it was right where the body was. So they couldn't have moved it that much.
I think in the movie they kind of like straightened him out a little, put crossed his arms across his chest.
They probably just put his legs together and
Oh yeah, so I think this is really the first time we see the Horsemen, right? As well, like aside
like
from
Full on, yeah, I think.
Yes.
Full on headless, yeah. Because prior to this, we saw him as Michael or Christopher, or wait, what's his name?
Walken.
Christopher
We're
Walken.
Christopher
Yes.
Walken, and then in the opening scene, we don't see the top above his shoulders at all.
Oh
It's
yes.
the
Okay.
camera's framed so that it makes you think like, oh, it's a person.
Yeah,
Right.
the mystery
You
of the
just see a horseman running Mazda
Yeah.
down.
the mystery of the Horsemen, I feel like, is one of the scariest parts of the story. And there was one thing I didn't like that they kind of snatched away, which was that they when they showed Michael or Christopher Walken's face, they let us know his identity. You know,
Yeah.
and especially at the beginning of the movie, I feel like they kind of stole that mystery. You know.
Mhm.
But I thought it was kind of cool. And you're right. They tell you up front, the horseman is the killer. We know that, right? But what we can't figure out is why and how did he come back from the dead? Because clearly we know from the opening scenes that he was indeed murdered. He was beheaded and he was buried. And that was like at least, 10 years prior or something?
Mhm.
So how and why? So despite
Yeah, there was
everything
still that
saying
element.
Ichabod's staunch belief in reality and there's superstition and ghosts. What does he say? Ghouls and goblins, they don't exist. And yet here we are with the viewer, and we know that
Yeah.
it's the headless. We
Mhm.
know that it is a dead, ghoul or whatever come back to do this. We just don't know why, and that's where the movie continues to hold our grasp, you know what I mean, and hold our interest.
Well, I think we're figuring it out. The audience is figuring it out throughout the movie. Like we suspect that it is an actual horseman, but if you remember Brahm, he dresses up as the horseman. Remember?
Yes.
He does. And I remember in the theater that scared me because I was like, oh no. And then he just throws a flaming pumpkin at him perfectly.
Yes. Knocks him out.
Yeah,
One of
that
the
was
many
cool.
times that Ichabod passes out, where then he has a memory, like a childhood memory and this is when we first see
That's right.
his mother.
They're like,
Oh yeah.
they're outside in that little bright spot.
And she's
And-
beautiful, and she's,
Yeah.
like Johnny said, she's kind of like dancing and twirling in the and also the scene is light, it's beautiful, there's flowers and it's brighter. And Ichabod is a child and he clearly adores his mother, and she starts like writing these little, I don't know, charms or squiggles in the dirt, and then he's yanked out of that memory
Yeah.
because he comes to.
And they're kind of suppressed memories too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He wakes up very kind of frightened, but he doesn't know why, and you don't know why just yet.
Right. After that Brahm attacked him, he comes back and he starts talking. He discovers Katrina's up late, and that's when she kind of divulges to him that she has a little bit of like interest in witchcraft, which kind of alarms Ichabod a little bit. He's like, oh man, like, because he doesn't believe in this at all, right? And she shows him a book that belonged to her mother.
Mhm.
That's I think it's spells or something in it, and he's like, and she offers it to him, this is going to be important later. She offers him this book, and he tells her, I have no need for this. And she's
Yeah.
like, well, you might need it. Just keep it close to your heart. Okay, so then the next day they go out because Katrina she's explaining that, who she is basically. She's like, my father is a good man. I love him. I know he's rich now, but we weren't always rich. We're cousins to the Van Garretts. And my dad, he got this little plot of land. Oh, do you want to see where I live? So she takes him back to this old rundown, what would have been their first cottage.
Mhm.
And there's another important clue here because
The,
go there. Number one, she's squiggling in the dirt with
the
a little stick that again
yeah.
kind of
little
alarms.
swirl.
Yeah, Johnny's again like, okay, there's that thing again. I remember my mom doing that. And then there is a carving in the back of the fireplace. And she says, oh, look,
The archer.
the archer, there's a carving in the back. It's still here. So we understand that she came from meager beginnings, but that her father prospered because the rich cousin, gave them this little cottage and some land, and he ended up doing very well for himself. So all that being said and done, technically her father is now the richest man in town, where before it was Dirk Van Garrett, who now has mysteriously been murdered, his son and his new wife and their child to be. So this, if you're paying attention, you're starting to form an opinion maybe about why these people are murdered. And I think Ichabod is too. This is where he's starting to kind of see all these little facts.
Yeah.
So then he is again approached by the magistrate, and he keeps telling him, I'm telling you, it's the Headless Horseman. And he's like, don't be ridiculous. You're a magistrate. You should know better. And that's when he pulls out that little talisman, Michael.
It's my talisman. It protects me from the horsemen. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And he's killed right in front of
he gives
right
him
in front of Ichabod.
Yeah, well, he gives him a little bit more facts. He's like, well, I did the autopsy. I know she was pregnant. And obviously, you knew it too, so you must be the father. And he's like, I'm not the father. He's like, well, then how did you know? And he says, well, because she came to me because she needed to know the rights of her unborn child. And, again, the magistrate keeps like feeding him little tips, little pieces of facts. So then he's like insistent. He's like, well, then if you're not the father, then who is? And he never really gets to it.
Yeah, no, because he gets his head kind of.
Yeah.
So after that, do they go directly
and I
into the
believe
woods?
this is the first time that Ichabod first actually sees the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
Because the first time when he encountered it, it was Brom. And I think he knew it was Brom because he heard laughter. It was Brom and his friends. So he knew that was just a prank that they played on him. But this time he's actually seen the Headless Horseman. Now he's freaking out. Now he's holed up in the servants' quarters.
That's right. He's scared. He's really
scared out of his mind. Now he's scared.
Yeah. He's like,
Katrina
it's real.
and her dad approach him, and they're like, "We told you. Everybody told you."
They're like, "Yeah, that's what we were telling you."
This is literally what we told you. There is a Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
Running around, and he's collecting heads. And I think he passes out again.
He passes out in bed after he woke up from passing out.
Oh,
okay. And then I think this is when they go into the western woods where.
May I interject very quickly? While Katrina and him were visiting her old house that is basically not there anymore, she asked him about the puncture wounds on his hands.
Oh, and he says, "Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember. I don't know." And when he passes, like Johnny had mentioned earlier, it seems like every time these are repressed memories that he doesn't really seem to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Like he genuinely doesn't seem to. And then when he passes out, he seems to recall bits and pieces. And he remembers how he got those puncture wounds. Do y'all want to mention how he got them?
Sure,
yeah.
His dad kept his mom in one of those what are they called?
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And I think Was he put in it as well, or like is his whole
He-
body covered in holes?
I think his father, being this super uber religious like preacher, he
Uh-huh.
had like a torture room, and it was full of all these contraptions and torture devices where I guess like he would scare the sin out of people. And Ichabod saw his mother being tortured and
Mhm.
slammed his hands down on some spikes in fear, on accident when in shock.
Yeah.
But he didn't remember how he got those spikes. He's like, I don't remember. They were just been there. And so yeah, so apparently he had a very horrible childhood, which explains why he's so based in fact right now, because he just rejects religion and
religion.
spiritual and
Yeah.
Magic and everything.
Everything
magic and
spiritual.
Yeah, everything is spiritual, so he's like an atheist or something.
Yeah.
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 So then, guys, I believe they go into the Western Woods. He asked everybody, he's like, look, I believe you now. I get it. There is a headless horseman. Cool. Y'all mentioned something about a tree of the dead. I think that we need to get to him being based in facts again. He's like, let's go to the source and let's find out. So he is now determined to go to the Western Woods, and nobody joins him.
Right. He tries to recruit. He's like, I need a few brave men. And the
The
little
only one is
kid.
the kid.
Yeah. The kid's like, I'll go with you, sir.
I'm your
man, sir.
Yeah. And he's like, oh man. The Johnny Depp sigh, Yeah. Dude, like, I feel like this movie is the beginning of his, probably Edward Scissorhands actually would be more the beginning of his, like,
Captain Sparrow part.
Yeah. Like his Jack
he
Sparrow
started talking with that English accent, which
personality.
is
and
a little bit
his
sarcastic, a little bit,
And then his facial expressions, like the way he animates his face and everything. I feel like you start, like, this is like one step in that direction in this movie, as Ichabod. And
definitely. I could see that.
It's either he's talking like that, or he's like, and I do believe that there is a horseman. It's like the dullest, like, deepest voice. I can't do it right now because my throat hurts, but he's got, like, he does this, like, super serious. If you ever seen that movie where he puts his head into a computer, not literally his head, but his mind.
I think I did see that. I think I saw that.
It's okay. You're not missing anything, Christina.
Yeah.
Really? I've never even heard of that.
It's called convergence.
It was a Johnny Depp movie?
Yeah. But
Wow.
it's not. But he talks in this, like, weird, like, he's like, this is a scientist talk. Which is
like
kind of true. But
never heard of it. Wow.
So, like, they're on the way to the horseman's grave, right? And then they find, like, a cave.
Yeah, exactly. So they're on the way into the Western Woods. They've traveled pretty deep into it, where they realize that there is, like, nothing around them. There's no sound. Everything's pretty still. Everything's very creepy. And they do wander to or near to a cave, where this creepy woman comes out and addresses them and takes Johnny into the cave where apparently she resides and makes little boys stay outside.
Yeah. So she makes her little concoction there.
Yes, this is like the worst fucking scene, because she cuts the head off a bat, and I was mortified.
She bites it.
Like I said, no, she doesn't bite it.
I thought she bit it.
You're thinking of Ozzy Osbourne.
I was gonna say, I could have sworn she bit it.
She bit
She
it and then
like-
she pissed on the Alamo.
No, she did not.
Oh yeah,
It was
she
some-
does cut it with a knife, right?
It's really
Yes.
close up
Okay.
too. Like I
I
said, nothing was
know.
cut away.
She looked like she was enjoying
They
it
didn't
that
cut
much.
away. Like they
Like, she
literally
could've
show the
eaten it.
knife sawing the head off of this bat. It was horrible. Like it was so. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
In your
But-
defense, Johnny, she did throw it into a cauldron, so she may be eating the bat body for dinner.
ew.
And that's where COVID came from.
Right.
That's right. The original COVID.
COVID one.
Johnny Depp, he then learns more. It's funny how like all these people like keep feeding him facts throughout, right? He's like piecing everything together. Like everybody has a piece of the puzzle, but nobody's come together to figure out. And I have to say, I remember the first time I saw this movie in the theaters when it originally came out, because I was just enjoying the movie so much, and I don't recall reading the book itself, so I'm sorry I didn't know anything. But just sitting back and just letting the movie just lead me, it was very enjoyable. So to come to the conclusion was like, whoa, wow, So, but the whole movie kind of leads you there a little bit. So
There was this cardinal in a cage.
Yeah, there's
Remember
also
that?
like
something has to represent. The cardinal represents something. It's red.
the illusion. It represents the illusion.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
yeah,
remember, he has
exactly.
that little spinning paper. Remember that if
Yeah.
you spin it, so the cardinal is significant. And also in the cave with the witch, she had a dead cardinal on her table, which shocked him.
That's right. And remember, Katrina says that cardinals are her favorite.
And in the beginning of the movie,
He has his own cardinal.
he has his own cardinal that he releases
He releases out. Yeah.
when the carriage comes to pick him up to take him.
My wife
So, like-
actually brought up Abby. She brought up, we were watching the movie together, and she was saying that when you see something that's red in a movie, it usually means that something's very, very important.
There's something very significant about it usually.
Yeah. Yeah, and she was saying that she brought that up, and I was like, oh, okay. And I think the cardinal is supposed to be the horseman, right? That he's the one who's being trapped, or he's the one who's being
Because he's being
That's true.
manipulated.
He is.
We
That's
know
true.
that somebody is manipulating. Someone has brought him back to commit these,
They brought him back to use him, and so he has no free will.
yeah.
right.
So he kind of is in a cage. Yeah.
That's whoa, y'all went heavy with that one. I did not see that one coming. Wow.
Yeah, when
That
my
is
wife
pretty
told me
good.
that, I was like, yeah, I never understood it even as a kid. Like I was like, oh, that's cool. I want one of those. But yeah, until she brought it up, we were watching. I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a general sense of like following this movie, but there are a lot of things that you kind of have to see it again to get what's happening. I've noticed that about this movie. At least that was my experience.
It's great to watch it, and it's extremely entertaining. And then you watch it again, and then you start, picking up on all these little facts and stuff, and it's significant little, clues. And you're like, oh, like you guys, seriously, I never thought of that about the cardinal. How many times the cardinal appears in the movie, and that it could represent the horseman, because you're right, he's being manipulated and controlled, and he has no free will.
Yeah.
He's
At the
in a
same
cage.
time,
He's trapped.
like about the time Johnny Depp releases the Cardinal, roughly at the same time the Horseman's being
Mm-hmm.
released, and then
Yeah, that's
he's
true.
put back in his cage.
That's
Uh-oh.
true. Whoa, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah, because he was known as a restless. Like he was always in search of his head,
Mhm.
and he was like a restless soul. Like he had unfinished business, so to speak. He
Mhm.
and we find out very soon after Johnny Depp or Ichabod is stabbed, and wakes up. Like, we find out pretty quickly what's really been happening, what's been going on.
So it's at this point now that he wakes up from that night of sleeping, and the lady of the house is there. Not it's Lady Van Tassel is there, not Katrina. And he
Katrina.
asks about her, and Lady Van Tassel's like, Katrina has gone to sleep. She watched over you all night, la di da di da. So he gets up and he's now, ready to go. I mean, he's raring to go. He's got all these pieces of the puzzle now, and he starts trying to piece them together. He's got like notes all over his room, all over the floor, all over the table, and he starts talking out loud to the little servant boy, Mazbeth, and he's coming to a conclusion.
I guess at that point, did he just figure like?
But he seems to think that there's some kind of financial motivation, and he has that family Bible. Remember, in the Bible, it had a family tree,
Mm-hmm.
and so he's looking at the family tree. Oh, and I think that he had asked Katrina, right? He goes, "Why didn't you tell me that the Van Garretts were related to the Van Tassels?" And she's like, "Well, there's hardly a household that isn't connected,
Mm-hmm.
one way or
Right.
the other." So he decides he wants to go talk to the another man in town. It was was it the notary?
The notary, Hardenbrook, Michael Goff, right?
Okay. So he goes to notary, and he goes with he's like, "I know what's going on here." It's like Van Garrett was married to that
that's
lady,
right.
wasn't it?
Okay.
Because she was pregnant, obviously, from someone, and it wasn't the pastor, because or was it the pastor or the Reverend Steen? Who knows?
Yeah, he
Remember,
was.
she had told one of those men, remember, that she was pregnant because she wanted to know the rights of her child or something.
Right. So that would have been the magistrate.
The magistrate. Oh, okay. So
So he's talking to Hardenbrook.
He's talking to Hardenbrook, and the boy recognizes his father's satchel, and he's like, "Hey, that's my dad's." So they open it, and that's when they start finding like legal documents and stuff, like, "Hey, this is a marriage certificate." So Johnny or Ichabod starts to.
Or it's his last will and testament.
Oh, it was a will. Okay.
Yeah, he was leaving everything to the
lady and her unborn child. Uh-huh.
That's what it was, yeah. And so now he's starting to see, okay, this does have to do with land and wealth.
So after he's done talking to Hardenbrook, there's the church, right? Hardenbrook kills himself.
I think Hardenbrook killed himself before the Headless Horseman could get to, because he's scared out of his mind right now.
Yeah, he's said too much, or he's said too much. He is too wrapped up, and he even says, like, we didn't think it would be
a murderous
type of.
So Van Garrett comes running to the church. He's like, "What? Oh my God!" Katrina's freaking out. There's full chaos. Everyone's in the church freaking out, fighting each other,
shooting at the Headless Horseman through the windows because he can't.
Because he's outside, right? Like, he can't enter church
and
grounds.
Johnny Depp's like looking at him, and he's like, "He can't enter."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody stop! Everybody stop!
And this is when the